Pivot and slide method of full bust adjustment is the easiest I know of. I use anything but basic shirt by Do It Better Yourself Club. Today we are adding fullness to the bust area and adding length to the pattern. I think I found a truly easy way to lengthen pattern pieces. I've already pulled one size of the bodice to its own layer and removed gaps in the path as shown in Join Nodes video. If your bodice has different necklines like this one, you need to choose one and connect it so we have one whole path to work with. We start by duplicating the path, press Ctrl D for a backup. Change the stroke color with Shift-click on the color below. We'll work without seam allowances. Path, Inset to remove the seam allowance. The pattern has 3/8 seam allowance, and I cheated by removing 3 mm 3 times. You can set it to be precisely 3/8 in Edit, Preferences, Behavior, Steps, Inset Outset. I also use shortcut Ctrl opening bracket. Inset removes seam allowance all over including the fold line, so I add it back. With Node tool, press N, select one corner node of the fold, hold Shift and select another corner node. You should have two bigger blue nodes in the center front. With left arrow key move the nodes until they align with the original fold. Now we are ready to pivot. Duplicate the bodice again. I color the copy and lower the opacity to see through it. Menu Object, Objects to get the Objects panel and control opacity. With Select tool, press S, click 2 times to get the rotation handles. Find the small pale cross sign in the center, I'll highlight it for you. Pull the rotation center to the outer shoulder point and leave it there. To measure the amount to adjust, I create a rectangle, set units as centimeters, and write 3.5 in the width field. Rotation center will be more visible after the next Inkscape release in May. Then pull the rectangle to the armpit point and snap it there. We can use its outer corner as our goal, but I pull 2 guides to create an intersection. What tutorial do you want to see the next week? Leave the answer in the comments below. Now when we'll start pulling any of the rotation handles, the shape will rotate around that point. Switch off the snapping, because it will interfere. Pull one of the rotation handles until the path touches the intersection. Your snapping toolbar is probably along the right edge of the window. View, Custom to set it to the top like mine. Duplicate the shape again, and change the color. On paper we would be tracing now, but I prefer to do it in the end. Click twice to see the rotation handles of our recolored shape. Pull the rotation center into the armpit. Notice that the rotation center of the copy is on the shoulder. Pull the rotation handle again until we reach the original hip line. You can stop before that if you need more room in the hips. I color the original shape, the one without seam allowances, to see better. We are going to trace the final shape with Bezier curves now. I hide the pivoted shapes for clarity. Follow the original along the fold, neckline and the shoulder line. Switch the snapping on again, and just click the corners with Bezier tool, B. We'll curve later where needed. At the outer shoulder point, press Enter. We need the first pivoted shape now, green one, so I unhide it. To continue the path, hover over the end node until it's red, click and continue. Follow the green shape along the arm's eye. Here I only add one node, but it's safer to add at least one more in the middle. Unhide the final shape, yellow one. Follow it along the side seam and return along the original fold to the starting point in the neckline center. The path is now complete, it's time to curve the lines. The rule of thumb is to pull the stroke of the path in the middle of the future curve until it more or less aligns. Then click one of the nodes to see the node handles. Pull handles to fine-tune the curve. You can both pivot the handles and lengthen or shorten them to shape the curve. If you can't get the curve you need with only 2 nodes in the corners, add one in the middle with double-click on the path stroke. I didn't need any new nodes here. You'll need to see all the shapes for this step, so I unhide the green one. I curve the hem to have more length in the center, always a good idea with full busts. I hide the pivoted shapes again and lower the altered bodice to the bottom, press end. We can clearly see what was changed. Now to add the length. I duplicate the altered shape and pull it aside. I use shift arrow here, but you could just use the mouse. For this step, make sure your shape actually has a stroke, not just a fill. You can see in the bottom left corner if both rectangles are colored or not. I decided to add length at the bust curve and pulled a guide through at that level. With Bezier tool, create 2 nodes path on the guide, intersecting the pattern piece. With Select tool, add the bodice to the selection and path, cut path. If your shape had fill color, it's lost now, but that's okay. We can color it again if needed. The shape is now cut into 2 at that line, and notice that the cut has no stroke on it. This will help us to unite the bodice again after we added length. No stroke means that the path is actually broken here, and both nodes around are end nodes. To do that, I prefer to add to the Y coordinate of the lower part. With Select tool, click the lower bodice. On the tool panel, select your preferred units first, decide on the amount of length to add, then in Y field type plus amount, in my case +3. The piece is lowered by 3 centimeters now, and we want to make the pieces whole now. I duplicate them both so you could see how the line goes, but it's not necessary. Switch to Node tool and select both top and bottom. Find 2 nodes on the right that are the closest to the gap on both pieces. Pull to select them or click them with Shift. Once both these nodes are selected and all others aren't, use Join Selected Nodes button. I do the same for the left side, but use a shortcut Shift J this time. Now we only have to add the seam allowance back with path, Outset, and then remove it from the fold by pulling 2 corner nodes. Or you could mirror the bodice before adding seam allowance. If you want to transfer the notches, add a few nodes with double-click where you need the notch. Pull the middle node out or in, and shape the notch if you prefer. Make sure that only nodes you actually want to pull are selected. Happy projecting, everyone!